Uh, this evening, I have decided to speak out my mind and my experience on the perceptible dangers of the misuse and abuse of the internet and the associated platforms that we call uh, uh, social sort of communicative platforms that we have the Twitters, and Facebook and the YouTube and the related platforms that people generally throughout the world have started resorting to in order to have entertainment, in order to have information, in order to have friendly communication, or all sorts of conveniences that they can derive out of these scientific facilities available to them. Yeah, I have been concerned right from the beginning that science and technology have been our liberator. It's a fact that the efforts of the researchers, the scientists, and the technologists during the last 150 years, particularly from the beginning of the 19th century up to the present time, they have done a great service to humanity. And humanity has been served very well in so many ways that we have had a longer life now. We have secured a longer span of life for ourselves. We have uh, we have had so many things that make us proud of our achievements, like we are having Olympic Games regularly. We have conferences, we have platforms at the international level, global level, where we uh, make our views known to the entire world. We exchange ideas and feelings and all that. But what has been happening in the last 25 or 30 years because of the uncontrolled use of the internet, so many organizations, institutions, the circles of intellectuals, the circles of far-sighted people, they have raised their doubts as to the uncontrolled use, misuse, and what you call abuse of the internet, the Twitters and the Facebook and the YouTube and other social networking platforms have been seen to have been misused very badly, and the results are all before us. I refer to this connection. So many seminars, so many meetings and gatherings, people have expressed their views. Some of the people, they have been branded as anti-science, anti-technology, anti-progress, anti-humanity. But then the critics of the critics of the abuse and misuse of computers and internet facilities are not grounded. They are not speaking out the reality, or they are not doing any service to mankind. Of course, all of us know that it was because of the internet facilities, it was because of the computer that the terrorists all around the world happened to be successful in killing people, making plans, making tools, and all that, having connections worldwide with the terror groups. And what could be a better example than this example, or you can say a horrible example of how humanity has been harmed than this example of Osama bin Laden, who happened to strike the Twin Towers in the most developed, the most powerful, the richest country in the world, the US. And thousands of people lost their lives, and properties or wealth or resources worth billions and billions of dollars got destroyed, and the whole world suffered. Perhaps almost all countries of the world happened to suffer in terms of the loss of human beings because thousands of people died, and People died from all over the world. Of course, most of the people were from America, but then there were people from outside America, from different continents. Uh, my concern is especially related to what has been done in America itself. In the last 15 days, three editions of the Times of India. I'm referring to one edition of the discussion of the ill impacts of the abuse and misuse of the internet that got published probably 15 days ago in the Times of India, Calcutta edition, because I'm in Calcutta and I subscribe to the Times of India. And then there were reports and stories about uh, what happened in America. Many states, or some of the states, or some of the places, they made complaints, and the complaints went to the court as to what should be done, as to what direction the court gives to the government of the US and the people concerned, the scientists, and all those people who have a stake in the proliferation of electronic gadgets, more manufacture, more mobiles, and all. And their concern was that in most of the places in America, the shootings and what you call that alienation of the young people, particularly teenagers, school goers, these young people, the future of the world, because if teenagers between 13 and 19 happen to spend their time not to sports activities, not to the activities of studies and research and playing, particularly because all age human beings need exercises, reading, refreshment, entertainment, and then, of course, all of us need some solitude when we expect ourselves to be left by ourselves so that we reflect on the happenings, the doings, the results of our actions, the bad results or the failures of our actions. So we need to be together, we need to be playing, we need to be talking, exchanging, we need to be sharing jokes and all that. But we also need, every individual in the world needs to have some time, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours every day when he or she is alone and he and she just imagines what nature is like, how nature helps us, how trees and plants and rivers and seas, the skies and the mountains and the hills, all these are the important things in our nature, in our world, and they help us to live longer, or they help us to live more pleasantly, and we think about them, we write poems about them, we write reports about them, we write researches done about their history, about their about their utilities in this world. And so it is natural that internet is looked upon as one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century. Right from the 1970s or 80s in developed countries, internet started getting used widely. In the developing parts of the world, internet facilities got or were made available to the people in the first decade of the 20th century. So maybe 25 to 30 years in most of the countries of the world, and in the Western developed Western world, maybe 50 years ago or 60 years ago, it started. Now that, as I said earlier, that in the newspapers and magazines and seminars and symposia, people are making expressions regarding their frustration or regarding their concerns, regarding their anxieties as to what has happened, that young people between 13 and 19 mostly, they have been badly addicted to the misuse of internet platforms. And they tweet, and they have Instagram, they exchange photographs and messages, they have YouTube, they make contents, they make blogs and all that, they say, means every everybody is busy doing something artificial. Everybody is trying to imitate. You see something being done by some of the young people in America and the people in England or people in Germany or people in, suppose, China. They try to imitate. So things are being repeated, imitated all over, and the real thing has taken the back seat. For example, what is the real thing? Think for a moment, and I am drawing the attention of all the people in the world, including the so-called leaders, the so-called powerful people. I, the speaker, I'm an ordinary person. I don't have resources. I don't have any factory or any industry or any big business, and I have not employees. I have not been able to employ people. I have been a teacher all through my life. I have taught over 30 years in the university. My students have been doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, because as a teacher of the English language and literature and linguistics, I have I have had to interact with students from all different streams, like students of science and technology. I have taught at the BSc level, technical English, or I have taught master's level. I have supervised PhD theses, two PhD theses I have co-supervised with my friends. I have helped students do researches on topics of their interest for their requirements to have a degree of MA or MPhil in English. So I have been a teacher, and I have had my world that has been filled with books and filled with magazines and papers, and I have had opportunities. I have to exchange views and news and stories and actions and reactions, repercussions of things in the academic circle. So that is what is my background, and I have also seen that how great writers of the past, they have written about the things that are so much intimately connected with life, that how to have a better life, how to make this world better, how to see to it that this short life of ours has some enjoyment, an enjoyment of the best kind, pleasure of the best kind. Means we need not have pleasure that is momentary or that is physical, material only, and we don't have soul pleasure, we don't have heart pleasure, we don't have pleasure of a very creative mind. So this in the papers that I read, so many columns in papers 15 days ago also, and for 6 days ago also, that things have started in the US. But I have not visited US ever. I have lived all my life in India. I have served as a professor in English in the University of Nepal, to University. I have taught at St. Xavier's College, and over a period of 30 years, 32 years, I have uh, uh, I have been in touch with books written by great writers, books on science and technology, books on literature and poetry and philosophy, books on geography and history, social sciences, because literature is a subject that is a summation of all the kinds of knowledge. You also have some sort of application of mathematics in literature, as one of the great critics, modern critics, I. Richards, he compared some of the applications of the literary theories or the literary criticism with the theories of mathematics and all that. So as an averagely educated or as an educated person, I feel that man's life can be rich, can be pleasurable, can be happy, provided man lives according to nature. Because man's life, this earth is very, very, it's a precarious world. We have to live within limitations. Howsoever foolproof arrangements we make for our programs and our actions, our events, and things happen naturally, sometimes natural calamities. See what has been afflicting us for the last 3 years, COVID and so many varieties of COVID, And scientists have been there, they are there, but they could not prevent COVID, the pandemic, to maraud us, to kill thousands upon thousands of people around the world. And ironically, America, the richest country in the world, the most powerful country in the world, as reported, got affected so very badly that no other country suffered as much. Even a poor country like Nepal did not lose more than 3 or 4 thousand people in the last 3 4 years, and America has lost over 7 8 lakh, or almost approaching 10 lakh people who suffered from COVID, different varieties of COVID. So man has to live according to nature. We have to have happiness, but our happiness is not unlimited. And happiness we have unlimited, but positive happiness. Take for example, when you work or I work in our fields, in our agricultural fields, and we take care of the plants, we take care of the seeds, we remain devoted to our agricultural operations, and we know how the operations have to be conducted, and scientifically, reasonably, we work in our fields and we have results. But sometimes, in spite of our best efforts put in our agricultural operations, we don't get the results. Farmers sometimes they lose a lot. They don't even recover their investments. So, what as an educated person, I feel that science and technology must be developed, researches must be continued. We must find out ways, we must discover and invent machines and tools and gadgets that make our life comfortable, but not comfortable. We should not be living a comfortable life for 10 years, and after that, all the comforts and give, you can say, room to discomforts, that we enjoy good food, and we over enjoy, we overeat, and before we happen to digest the eaten food, we get, suppose, poisoned, or we have cholera, we have dysentery, we have all kinds of things. So science and technology is very important, and we are indebted to science and technology, that we live in skyscrapers, we drive our cars at great speed. We have our tea in Kolkata, and maybe breakfast in a different place, maybe in Beijing, maybe we have lunch in, let us say, Britain, lunch you take. These are the good things. We have had medicines invented, and we have been able to control diseases. We have been able to mitigate the sufferings of the patients, and all these things are there that make us proud of our achievements, our science and technology. But this is extremely sad. To the stadiums. We don't go to the stadia, rather. We don't go to the open fields. We don't go to the beaches for walks. We don't go to enjoy water sports. We don't go to have adventures, which are risky, but the adventures are pro-health and pro-exploration and pro-researches. Most of the time, teenagers all over the world, even poor countries more, you have given them mobiles, and you tempt them to have mobiles. Every day you have 10 to 15 advertisements that notify the ownership of mobiles. If you have 5 mobiles, or one mobile you have used for 2 years, then you have another version that is enriched, they say, or that is more powerful, that has camera. There's so many. You say one mobile and so many functions. So you buy that. And most of the time, the teenagers, I mean, of course, the elderly people, elderly means people who are very, very senior, they have the wisdom, they have the experience of life. So they work only 2 3 hours, and they have the savings of their life also, so they live like that. They don't have much to do with the mobile, you can say, music and dance and all that. But 10% of these elderly people also, they have been used to all that, and they have become mischievous in the eyes of their own comrades or own companions. And then you have the people between, suppose, 25 and 55 or 60 even. These people, they have to work. And they are business people, they are researchers, or they are farmers, industrialists, brokers, all sorts of people. And because they have to earn money, and they earn more, they want to earn more. So they are busy, they don't have time that much. But those so-called students studying at the primary level, upper primary level, up to that, you can say college level, most of the time they are glued to their mobiles or laptops or computers. And I think that the most of their time is taken up by their uh, chatting with friends. They don't even know people, and particularly pornography. You see, that of course, biology is very important to understand, and biological sciences say that sexuality is one of the human needs, or sexual urges happen to be realized or felt by all sorts of people of all ages. Only when you are extremely old, maybe that you don't have, and when you are children, you don't have. But after 12 and 13, they start having the feelings of, you can say, they understand what sex is, they feel attracted to males and females according to their what you call what sex they are. So females get attracted to males starting from 12 or 13. Males get attracted to females starting from the same age, and then earlier you didn't have. So people, uh, uh, even before television came in the lives of the people, people would be listening to radio programs, radio songs, and transistor. They would work with the transistor set, and they would enjoy. And because they would go sometimes to cinema, because cinema houses or cinema halls started functioning maybe in the third decade of the 20th century. They say that 1920 or 1915 is the beginning of the cinema halls getting operated to screen films and all that, or filmmaking started. And now that you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands, maybe 500,000 or 1 million cinema halls all across the world. So people would go. But now cinema halls are not needed as much because everybody has a cinema hall in his pocket. You have a mobile and you can see any number of films. You can see anything. So in those reports that I referred to that appeared in the Times of India, Kolkata edition, and such reports are, you can say, published in so many magazines and papers, so everybody knows what has happened. In America, things started. Americans are the leaders of the internet invention, or Americans are the people. Means most of the Nobel Prizes are won by Americans or people who have lived in America. If you take out an account of the receivers of the Nobel Prizes so far, starting from 1903 or 1905, means right from the first decade of the 20th century up to now, you may get this figure that about 50 to 60%, or about 40 to 50% Nobel laureates have been from America. Of course, many of them might have been the American citizens after having lived their younger life in their countries, in their own countries, because America is a world in itself. People go to America to study, to have higher education. They get settled because you have better facilities, you have better, you can say, infrastructure of society and social structures. So more comfortable life and more accesses you have to science and technology labs and all. So you find prospects there. So American scientists are not only those who had been born in America or those who are American citizens by birth. Many of them, 30 to 40% of the American scientists, they were born in different countries of the world. they got their primary education or their mm, you can say middle level education in their own native countries, and then they migrated to America, where they got opportunities, and they got established through their labor, through their achievements, academic research achievements, and all that. So my point is that internet is very nice, that we get connected. You are seated in your own house, in one of the rooms of your house, and your son is working in America, or an American family. The whole family is in America, or maybe two, three members of a family, American family in America, in their own places. You can meet them physically also, but maybe a few members are in Germany or Austria or China or India, and then you don't miss them as much as you would miss them, or you could miss them when there was no internet, no mobile, nothing like that. So you can have video conferencing, means members of the same family living in different countries, and you choose a time, and then you meet one another, you see one another, and you feel as if you are very near one another. And that's a great advantage. We have, suppose, telemedicine. A doctor may not come physically to your house. You talk to a doctor, and he tells you, he asks you what problem you have been suffering from, what is your state of mind, what you think could be the reason of your illness, and then you are prescribed medicine, or you are suggested certain solutions to your problem, and then you get all right after, you can say, following the suggestions, or taking the medicines prescribed by them. But that's not all. We see that too much of freedom given to what we call teenagers, and means allowing every teenager to possess so many mobiles, so many things. And my concern is that so many sites are there where even good people, they can stray. Take for example, to be good is very difficult. To try to be a scientist is very difficult. You have to devote your lifetime to become an established scientist. But to become a robber, to become a murderer, to become a dacoit, you don't need any education, any training. You become deranged, you become negative, and then every day, today you are a pickpocket, tomorrow, if you are not checked, if you are not controlled, if you are not detained, then tomorrow you become, suppose, a robber on the highways. Day after tomorrow, you could be a murderer, and then you could be a threat to the entire society, suicide bombers and all that. So in the same manner, in every family you have, suppose, members, male and female, and whichever part you live in, it doesn't matter. You know that women generally are physically weaker compared to the strength, physical strength, I mean, of the males. In Australia, you have women, and they are almost 5'10" or 6 feet, 5 feet 10 inches or 6 feet. They are very tall, much taller than the women in other parts, particularly in Asia and Africa. Women are not as strong, as tall, as fashionable as American women, or Australian women, or European women. But even then, when you compare them to the physical strength of the American men, Australian men, European men, then they are. Even these days, they talk about discrepancies or irregularities or inequalities that exist or that are practiced between men and women. You don't have even 50%, means you should have 50% or 40, 60, 60% male engineers and 40% women engineers. But take the example of America, you don't have that. So means women have to be given more security. And when sexual crimes are committed, men commit the crimes more than women commit the crimes. You have men who sell their bodies, but the number of the men selling their bodies sexually, their number is much small, much small. But women who happen to be called prostitutes or whatever, they sell their bodies sexually, they earn money, they live in style, they live in comfort, they live in luxury hotels and all that, because that is their preference. But preference doesn't have any limit. That is not all right. That is a rot to society. women these days, even in Kolkata, you see that you go out, and in many areas, teenagers they have started smoking, they have started drinking in the open. Now, many people who you can say talk about human rights and all that, and a very free life, that in this part of the world they call that you don't be afraid of anything, you live a free life, you live a non-restrained life, uncontrolled life. In Hindi they call bindas jivan, that means you don't have any fear, that you are free, you can do anything. But no, that is not all right. You may go the wrong way. You have a live-in relationship, because that is what is shown on the television shows. And these people are, you can say, described, these women who have relationships with so many men, they are described as bold women. They are the, you can say, new women. And they live the way they like, because it is their life, it is their bodies, and they can use or misuse or abuse whatever their own bodies. But no, in a society, you have to live for others also. You cannot be a bad example to others. So I appeal to the scientists, engineers, and all those people who have special knowledge of internet facilities, platforms like Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, and all these, because so many means millions and millions of teenagers, they spend their time not studying books of biology or books of physics and chemistry, and they are not doing mathematics, they are not reading history, they are not reading culture. Means they don't read books, they read mobiles, and they read pictures. This is very bad. I say very bad, because I expect others also think the same way as I think. Because if you don't play football, if you don't play cricket, if you don't play squash, if you don't play table tennis, if you don't play tennis, lawn tennis, where do you get pleasure from? Because the real pleasure lies in having a sports, walking, running, and gymnastic exercises you do, and your health also remains all right, and you have the pleasure simply by, you can say, taxing your eyes. Most of the time you are reading messages, you make replies, you send messages, the messages come back with the answer messages, return messages, you go through them, you again reply. Means if you are awake 10 hours in 24 hours or 12 hours, about 8 9 hours you devote to sending messages, receiving messages, making comments, and sharing pictures. Instagram, somebody says, okay, if you like this song, share with your friends, and you go on sharing and all that. When do you read books? When do you read the books written by Aristotle, or you can say Plato, or Newton's, suppose you can say, biographies, and things written about the scientists, about our saints and sages, Saint Xavier. So he was a saint, but he became a saint after he realized that his dream of becoming an army general was all right. People would like to be powerful, people would like to be great military officers, but then he realized that it was better to be a saint, because during his convalescence, he realized that as a general, you are remembered for 100 years, 50 years, or whatever, and you have the satisfaction of living like a hero. But actual life is that of a saint who happens to live a very restrained life, very simple life. But that saint, you can say, contributes to the life of the world, contributes to the health of the entire humanity by giving examples of his good conduct. He lives plain life, and he lives according to nature. He doesn't have any negative idea to harm nature, means to kill a bird and to eat the flesh of the bird, or to pollute the water, doing this and that. You don't do bad things, because you believe that humanity has to exist for a longer period, and people have to live in peace. These days, you see what is happening in America, that teenagers, school-going teenagers, they have the licenses to purchase weapons and revolvers and pistols and all that, and they get inspired by the films you call action films, you call means horror films or action films. And actions, what action? Is that to be called an action? That you come into race, you are angry and you shoot somebody or you shoot so many people, and then you think that your life is packed with action? No, that is misaction. Because live and let live, not that you live and you don't let others live. So there was a very high idea that people wanted to learn, people wanted to understand the meaning of live and let live. Means the society, the whole world has to coexist, not only human beings, other, you can say, habitants of this earth, the animals, the plants, the huge animals and the tiny animals, the, you can say, organisms and the animals, you may call, or the creatures living in the sea, in the depth of the sea, living on the mountains, living in the gardens, living in the forests. All of us have to live, and we can live in our normal ways. But now that you see that gunmen everywhere, you have you have a prime minister of a country, and that country is you can say filled with terrorists, and you have security men, so gun-toting people, they surround the president or the prime minister, and that has become a so style, means that has become a sign of importance, that you are very important. Plato had said that the most important person is the one who doesn't have any realization of importance within himself, that he's an ordinary person. He is a creation of nature, and he has to go back to nature. He has been raised out of the dust, and he will, you can say, fall down to the dust. That is the reality. But we see that in big cities, you have hired killers. You have killers are made, that trainings are given to teenagers. How could they become dreaded criminals and all that? And we have freedom of all sorts, and freedom of all sorts should not be allowed to be had, because in fact that is not a freedom. If you have a freedom to drink a lot and to shout at the highest pitch, is that the freedom? If you have the freedom of you can say earning money in a bad way, a woman who is a seamstress, who makes designs on the clothes of the people, and maybe that out of 8 hours of work, even in America, she earns, let us say, that $100 or $200. But a pickpocket, a smuggler, an arms broker, and these people, they earn thousands upon thousands of dollars in a day. So the world leaders and the people of the world, consensus people of the world, they have to come forward, and they have to see to it that money is given to workers, and money is not to be allowed to be robbed or to be gathered, collected by the non-workers, the cunning people, the cheats and the thugs. They they amass money very easily. Within 5, 10 years, they become billionaires, and the working class people, the honest people, they hardly, you can say, have any savings to fall back upon when they are in bad health or they can't work. Uh, uh, so this I said that internet is a very nice thing. Twitter and YouTube and Instagram, they must be used, but there should be no pornography. Means sexual sites and sexual activities, and people earn millions and millions out of you can say sexual misacts, pornographic pictures. People make pornographic films and they become billionaires within 10, 15 years. And our teenagers, we ourselves, you see that even a person who wants to live a regular life, an organized life, if you are tempted, as people in the press, in the newspapers, they also misuse the language. The spelling search and iconic, ICONIC, and they just to flaunt that. Well, they know how to, you can say, make words attractive or fit for advertisements. So iconic, ICONI and Q, iconic. And so many, you say 0 mile, why not on the spot? I say, you say 0%, why 0%? You say no, you can say no interest. Without an interest you get. So language is also abused, and therefore you have too much of junk in the linguistic market. The words that have to be used, these words are not used. So you have so many examples when good words are, you can say, pushed to the periphery. They are pushed out of the use, and bad words are. Magra, the Australian cricketer, used to be referred in the newspapers as a butcher. Butcher is a bad word. Nobody should be a butcher. Okay, you sell meat because you kill animals, so butcher. And he was a great bowler, but he would be referred he was a butcher because he would, within 5 6 hours, he would, you can say, get 5 6 batsmen out. So butchering, so many, you can say, black people. Okay, black people, black complexion. It's a complexion, nature made complexion. And you suppose you can say colorful people, but the sense is the same. See the gradations in the examinations. Earlier marks would be disclosed, or mark sheet would be given that you secured 60%, 70%. Now you have 90% in English, or 99% in mathematics, or 99% in English. Even in language you can't have that. And the people who secured this high percentage of marks obtainment, they can't write even a single page. So what is the authenticity of the certificates that you are distributing? So no reading, no creative activities, no games and sports, no reading of the books, no printing of the good books, printing of the books on sex and sexology and all that, or internet and all that. Most of the time people devote, especially the teenagers and the young people. You have gambling dens, you have so many kinds of cheating. So these days cheats are taken as smart people, and these young people, they learn the same thing. They don't have respect for the elderly people. They don't have respect for their own parents. They call their parents comrades and yar and all that. You can't, no, because there has to be a tradition of respectability. There has to be a tradition of love. In Europe and all that, you see what has happened. It is because of the misuse and abuse of the internet that, and the son goes to the court of law with the help of NGOs, and NGOs are mushrooming all over the world. And most of the NGOs, conductors, operators, they are, you can say, criminals. And they don't work positively. They ignite, you can say, what you call quarrels among the people, and they, you can say, put one community against another community in the name of language and religion and all that, and they become the leaders. Every human being is a human being. So if you have physical symmetry, if you are handsome, in the looks of the people, you are handsome, God has given, but that handsomeness has to be matched with good work. You may be handsome in physical qualities or physical features, but if you are a thief, if you are a robber, if you are a thug, then your handsomeness, your physical symmetrical features, of no use. A black person, even if he is ugly in the eyes of the world, and if he is a good-hearted person, he is the right person. He should be respected. So I started talking about the huge misuse and abuse of the internet, and attention of the world, attention of all the people that I intended to seek. And my use, the internet has to be used for information, for education, but there should be no scope for pornography or things that hold you in a bad way. That you see in America, you have pregnancy, they say, has increased among the teenagers. Okay, sexuality has to be part of life, but after a certain age, after 21 years or 25 years. But even when you are a school student of class 7 and 8, grade 7 or 8, you can say, and then you start getting into that life of sexuality, and that spoils you. When do you learn? When do you organize yourself? When do you train yourself? When do you have knowledge? When do you have wisdom of using knowledge? You have to be scientists and doctors, engineers, not only for money, but to be on your guard first, and then to be on the guard of your family members. Because if you are a doctor, and if you are a good doctor, you remain healthy because you know what are the good things to do, in terms of eating and suppose intakes and exercise and all that. So you protect yourself, you keep yourself healthy, you help your family members to keep themselves healthy, and then you can say do the same with your patients and those who pay you the fees, and that is part of your, that is your earning. And then sometimes suppose you help the poor people who can't pay you the fees, that is also part of your life. You live your life as a doctor not only by having hefty fees from the patients, particularly from the rich patients. But this is also part of your life that you help the poor people who don't have. And nobody should be poor. Why should we allow poor people to continue to be poor? Why should we give them reservations and we should make them feel crippled? We should train them. Even crippled people, partially crippled people, they can be trained to do something. So all human beings can do one or the other type of work. And blind people can work certain types of work. Deaf people can work. People who can't walk, they can do stationary work and all that. So my uh, request, my persuasive words are for all those people of the world, including the so-called leaders. And leaders, all of us know, leaders have to be self-sacrificing. Leaders have to be those who can give examples, and those who don't only want others to work and they don't work themselves, and then they cheat people, and then they enjoy the material benefits of the world. Leaders have to be, you can say, all right, good people. Nobody can be selfless. You be selfish, but remain selfish within the limits. So let internet, let scientific discoveries and inventions be used. And that's why sometimes they say, and I remember one essay I had read, the use and misuse of science. And this another, the double responsibility of the scientists, that they research, they invent, they discover, but they also make provisions, or they also make devices, or they also put controls on the misuse and abuse of their discoveries, their inventions. Only then the whole humanity can benefit, and we can go further in civility, in courtesy, in health, in happiness, in peace and prosperity. Otherwise, if we allow pornography sites or pornographic sites to, you can say, have mushroom-like growth, and if we don't make our education tight education, healthy education, if we don't allow, if we allow our people to indulge in physical, suppose, comforts and laziness and all that, then this world cannot sustain itself. It will be finished sooner than it may be finished in its due course. So the scientists of the world, the leaders of the world, the influential people of the world, please see to it that your own influence is also limited. You will die one day, but see to it that before you die or when you die, you think at least that, well, you have not done much harm to humanity. You have not committed much sin. As a human being, as a mortal human being, all of us have our weaknesses. We make mistakes. We have blunders attributed to us, and we commit blunders. But we should not be committing sin. We should not be murdering people. We should not be, you can say, participating in the crimes that ultimately go against humanity. We should not have filthy money. Money is all right, resources all right, wealth accumulation is the right thing, but let us do all these within limitations of nature, within limitations of our needs. You don't need billions and billions of dollars to live a life of 85 years or 100 years, 105 years. Your family doesn't need billions and billions of dollars. And sometimes you earn in a bad way, and then you try to have, you can say, a kind of facade of being a social worker or socially oriented, and you donate, you raise hospitals. Why to raise hospitals? Too many hospitals are not needed, or so many hospitals are not needed if we see to it that in the markets all around the world, healthy food items are sold out. You don't have the boozers anywhere. You don't have the sales of alcohol in excess. You don't have whining and dining and humanizing. All these are bad things, because you do and you enjoy for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, then you get diseased, you die. And your children, they also see how you die and what way you lived, and they also don't get any better. Rather, they turn worse than what you have been. They die sooner than you. If you die at the age of 85, they die at the age of 75 or 65 or 45, because they have seen you having not a regular life, not a good life, an indulgent life, an uncontrolled life, unrestrained life, and they do the same thing. So if we are good children to our parents, we shall have the prospect of having good children to ourselves. If we are good to our parents, when we become parents, we get a good treatment from our children. If we take care of our granddads and grandmothers, then when we become granddads and grandmothers, we can expect at least, you can't have the same treatment that you have given, but then you can expect that, well, I have had investments on them, my children, my grandchildren. I have loved them. I have taught them. I have given them nice kind of training. I have given them examples from our own sides, the examples of good actions, good thinking. Only then this world can survive. Humanity can be a bit better every generation. Otherwise, internet and bombing and war and one-upmanship, and then suppose cheating as the leaders of the governments, you cheat your people, then people can't be any better than you. They would be cheater. They would be cheat to themselves. They would cheat their wives. Wives would cheat their husbands. Parents would cheat children. Children would cheat their parents back. So cheating all around, thuggery all around, immorality all around. There has to be some sort of continence, some sort of restraint. Otherwise, life can not be any good. It would be hellish. It has become hellish, and it will become more hellish, and it would be a thing of shame for all of us. So let us uh, pay attention to what is happening. Let us pay attention to the misuse and abuses of the internet. Let us see the conditions of the teenagers all around the world. The richer a country, the more, you can say, darkness there among the teenagers. And in the poor countries, it has become an opium. Mobile has become an opium. Everybody wants to have mobile in the hand, and everybody looks for the naked pictures, pornographic sites, and most of the time they devote to that. Even a rag picker stops rag picking. Perhaps that is the only way to make some money, but they go. So they become criminals. They call some people their friends, and friends kill friends. You see everywhere. You call somebody your beloved, and you kill, because before you reach the hotel where you can spend your time with the beloved, you have on the internet some other so-called beautiful woman, and you have a chat with that woman or chat with that the other person, and then you kill your beloved or live-in relationship partner. You kill, and then you go to another place as directed by the mobile directions, or what they call. This is extremely, extremely sad. So I appeal, and I try to draw, I seek to draw the attention. I wish that I could draw some attention of the people of the world, the rich people, the influential people, the people who have resources, to sit back at home and reflect on these happenings, which direction our world is going, our teenagers are going, and what is the future of humanity. So let us have internet, let us have science discovery, scientific discoveries, inventions, instruments, all kinds of things. But let us not have bombs and atom bombs, hydrogen bombs. Let us not have all kinds of thuggery, all kinds of cheatings, and let us have some sense of abstinence, because human beings have to live like human beings. You cannot have a life of animals. Animals in the wild, they copulate in the open because they don't have any sense. You can't do that, because human beings have to be civilized, and we call ourselves civilized, that we have been civilized. And then we look back in the ancient time, how our ancestors, remote ancestors, they lived in the jungles naked. They moved from one place to another, and their life was almost like animal. They didn't have any language. They shouted, they yelled, they made, suppose you can say, sounds and all that. But we live in beautiful houses. We have gardens, we have books, we have libraries, we have stadia, we have clubs and all that. So let these places be positive. Let us not infest them with poisonous things like the pornographic sites and all that. Otherwise, we we don't have any future, and the whole humanity's future is at stake. And we have to think, and we have to act. And sooner we act, better it is. Otherwise, the loss is not of one country or the other. The loss is not of one community or the other community. The loss is not only of the people who constitute only 10 to 15% of the population, 8 billion population of the world. All of us, even non-thinking people, have to come back to the ways of thinking trends. And let us be together, and whatever colors we have, whatever heights we have, whatever continents we live in, let us be together to keep our humanity in a healthy state, so that we die, and we die with some satisfaction that we are not that bad. We are bad, but not that bad. But if we don't do that, we shall have nothing but remorses at the time of our departure from this physical world. Okay, God bless us all. God bless us all. God bless us all. Bye bye.